Old man Woody likes the crooked cock.
And I understand what you're saying, that it can happen accidentally, but anytime an image of child pornography is viewed, it's another victimization of a child. To me, it's tantamount to raping a child, because somebody was abused to take that photo, and, it's human trafficking, and it's one of its worst forms.
I agree. I was gonna ask as well. This time around, will the police be waiting for our gentleman outside? Because that's the coup de grace.
Oh, that's so satisfying.
That's
when
the
they run
cherry
out
on
there.
top.
Well, yes, we will have police will be doing a parallel investigation, as in most of the investigations we did in To Catch a Predator. The first two we did not have police doing a parallel investigation, and two things happened. One, it was a little unsatisfying for the viewers to see this guy just walk off into the sunset. And even though police did and prosecutors did make cases against some of these guys, including the rabbi and the naked guy and some of the others, it made more sense to kind of involve the police and let them do their own investigation and get their own version of the transcripts from our online decoys and take it from there.
What was the most shocking, the most bizarre thing that either you read in the transcripts or perhaps the suspect did once they got to the decoy house? Because I've seen and heard so many things, and I sometimes I feel like I can read it on your face when you're conducting that. You're just, what were you thinking? Are you ever embarrassed reading the transcript?
Yes.
Thank you.
And you have to remember that I'm not just responsible to my audience or to my bosses, which I am, but I'm also responsible to, my kids' friends' parents, teachers at the schools, and all that stuff. I mean, there have been examples where, I've had a kid sitting in a class in college where suddenly they're showing, To Catch a Predator shows, and he's, do I say that's my dad? Do I give that up? Do I want that kind of scrutiny? What do I do here? And it's a big debate, and we try to be just graphic enough to show what these guys are capable of doing without being offensive. And I hope that we, tiptoed along that fine line. But yeah, I mean, in terms of what the most graphic moment was or disturbing moment, I mean, it's a 25-way tie for first. I mean, we had two naked guys, one who wanted to conduct a sex act with a young girl and a cat and whipped cream and all kinds of stuff.
That
Another
guy
guy walked in and showed up again the second day, and a guy who showed up in Fort Myers, Florida, with his 5-year-old son to walk in the house, and that silenced everybody. I mean,
he brought his kid.
He brought his kid, yeah. And you got to imagine. See, I work with a group of guys on this who've been with me in the darkest corners of the world, whether it's in Africa doing thievery stories when it comes to identity theft and all kinds of things, or Al Qaeda using blood diamonds to launder terrorist funds. I mean, these guys have been around the world with me, and this one scene, this guy pulls up. He's the last guy in an investigation, as I said, in Fort Myers, Florida. He pulls up in his SUV. He goes to the back door, and I'm thinking he's going to pull out a pizza and a 6-pack. Instead, he leads his 5-year-old son out by the hand, walks up the driveway into the house. Now, I've got to figure out what I'm going to do. A collective gasp goes out in the house. And so he walks in, and I said to him, on the fly, I said, look, you know why you're here. I know why you're here. I'm Chris Hanson, and I'm just going to let you go because I don't want to traumatize your son with whom you brought. And he left, and the police arrested him and gently scooped up the son, and that was it. But it was just so shocking that somebody would do that on a Sunday afternoon.
I feel I have to ask, was he planning to involve the son in some sort of sex act, or was he just babysitting for the day?
He was babysitting for the day. His wife was at work. I think he was going to go set him in another room and watch Barney videos or whatever, and go do his thing with a 13 or 14-year-old boy. And the shocking part of it was the backstory to that, which was he had to move out of his house because child services said you can't be in there during this investigation. Ultimately, he moves into the house. The child is moved to a relative's house. He's living there and has another child with the mother before he goes to trial and gets a 4-year prison sentence. And it just really the lesson of that is, and what we're going to do with the new series is we're going to try and do more of the front story and the backstory. In other words, we're going to try to have more information about this person before they actually come to the house. So, we see a scenario where there could be surveillance and, show this person doing, if it's a teacher, we show them teaching. If it's a doctor, we show them, practicing medicine. We do whatever we have to do. And then you have more context.
That's brilliant.
It's coming from and doing. So that's,
how do you gather it though? Like,
we're going to have to do research, and we have a strategic alliance with LexisNexis and Security Solutions and other data mining outfits. And we're going to be able to do it.
That's going to be brilliant. That's going to create a whole narrative. There's going to be drama. You'll be able to
exactly. I mean,
that's
you
going to be
can
excellent.
watch the person, as much as we can, build into the situation. Now, in the past investigations, obviously we've been able to know something about the people. We knew the rabbi was the rabbi. We knew the doctor was a doctor. We knew the police officer was the police officer. But this actually gives us the ability to paint a better picture of who this
and perhaps to follow them beforehand. Maybe you follow them to the drugstore they go to purchase those condoms, and that would be great as a viewing experience.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, have you ever been so angry or upset with one of these guys that you're sitting across from that you've actually wanted to hit them? Like these when you hear what these guys are there for, and when you see
there have to be some,
because some of them have an attitude. It seems like there's just here, doing my thing. What's your problem?
Oh, I'm just here to rape a kid. Like you have to want to punish those fucks.
Well, I understand what you're getting at. I mean, my job is not to mete out punishment. My job is to get these people to sit and talk and get in their brains so I can better understand the way they think, so we can better protect our children. Yes, as a parent of two sons, did I sometimes feel a sense of outrage? Of course. It's not my position to get in a fight. I mean, I was more worried about, okay, where are their hands? What do they got going on? Even though we had tons of security, and we will in the next investigations, there's a lot going on. And you're watching a lot of different things. You're trying to go through the transcripts. You're trying to engage the guy. I mean, anybody can jump out of the bushes and scare somebody and make them run off and create, 30 seconds of dramatic television. My goal with this, and with any other investigation I've done, is to get them to sit, talk, and get in their minds. And that's what we were able to do, and that's what made this and unique, and what will make the new investigation.
So on the flip side of that,
was there ever a time where you came across someone as you walked into that kitchen where you thought, oh, Jesus, like this guy doesn't look like a bad guy or doesn't sound like a bad guy? Was there ever a time where you came in and you just wished this guy had thought better of himself? Like,
well, I mean, obviously there were some cases where, you feel sympathy for these guys, and, they break down into three different categories. And I'm not a psychiatrist or an expert in this field, but based on my experience, you've got the hardcore heavy hitters who would be doing this with or without the internet. You've got this group in the middle who have a predilection for it, but wouldn't be doing it unless they had the internet and the addictive quality and the 24-hour access and, the anonymity, the 3 A's. And then you've got this other group, guys in the early 20s who are, not very social, and they see a 14-year-old girl online. They figure, well, there's only 8 years difference, and in 10 years it won't make a difference at all, and they go for it. Those are the guys who can probably be given probation and registration as a sex offender and computer monitoring and a rap on the hand and never do it again. The other guys, it's a different story. We had 3-time offenders in some of these cases walk in.
Well, you mentioned earlier the gentleman who came 2 days in a row, I think, it's absurd. Going at that point, what's the farthest distance or the greatest lengths that someone ever went to get to that house?
I think we had somebody drive about 5 hours. I think it was the greatest, 5 to 6 hours. And that happened on a couple of occasions, from one side of one state to the other, or from another state down. I mean, we had a guy who was actually a police officer in a small town at the Alabama-Florida border, who he'd been online all week, and he was just a really graphic chatter. And, some of these guys just chat and they never show up. I mean, probably 40% of them. So we shut down one night early for us because we would work till 3 o'clock in the morning, the day before. And we get back to the hotel, and suddenly cell phones are going off, and it's the decoy calling saying this guy just called from a payphone. He said he went by the house and it was dark. Now, there's no one switch to turn on the predator house. I mean, this takes a lot of engineers to put this together. So what ended up happening was the police made a traffic stop. And in fact, the guy was a police officer. He had a .38 caliber gun in his pocket. In his car, he had an assault rifle, a shotgun, and a .45. Hundreds of rounds of ammunition. And a video camera and an anchor and duct tape and bulletproof vests. I mean, you know, God knows what would happen if he showed up. And people always ask, you know, did you ever feel there was a time when you dodged a bullet? And I think, yeah, that was the time, you know.
Yeah, I can't imagine what the anchor was for.
He would tie it to a body, perhaps, and throw it into a body of water.
It's hard to speculate. I mean, maybe he had a boat. I mean, he was an outdoorsman. I mean, maybe he, you know, wouldn't have used any of the guns at all. But
that's true
have
as well.
to find out, you know.
As you like laid out that laundry list, I was thinking like, I've got all that stuff in my
Yeah,
car.
right. I was like, a 38. That's not that big a deal.
The assault rifle was bothersome, though. Right?
Yeah, exactly, Kyle. The assault rifle was bothersome.
I ended on that note. I love the wordplay.
That was the best shit I've ever heard.